Well, could the new regulatory initiatives from the European Union and other governments reduce the amount of plastic waste choking the environment? Well, to find out, I spoke to Valeria Merino, Vice President of Global Earth Day. I asked her about the significance of the European Union's single-use plastic ban proposal.
What's more interesting is that it's not just a ban, it's a combination of different approaches to reduce the production and consumption of single-use plastics, mostly. And what they have done is, first of all, they have identified what are the most common single-use plastics that they have been found in the beaches all over Europe and also in the ocean. And they are tackling those first, but only in the cases where there are alternatives that are more environmentally friendly in the market. So people are not going to have to stop using any of the things. They just have to choose another product that is actually acceptable to the European Union, and they will phase out the other ones. So, for example, straws. You have a plastic straw, you're not going to see plastic straws if this goes through. You will have paper straws. They probably will be, ocean friendly, so that means they dissolve in water. The second level is beyond those 10 items that they have identified, which are the most common culprits of ocean pollution. They are going to make the companies contribute money for the cleanups, the waste management, and also for educating people. For example, let's talk about cigarette butts. There is an enormous amount of them consumed in the European Union, 150 billion cigarettes a year. All of those butts contain plastics, and since they are so tiny, they are generally the most littered product into the ocean.
So for people who are trying to understand just how costly this is economically, how big of a problem is plastics?
Well, it is a big problem in the sense that if you have plastics everywhere and you're a country that depends on tourism, that industry is going to be affected. If you have fisheries or people consume fish or crustaceans or whatever, you're going to be affected. Then you have the problem of waste management and processing all that garbage, all that plastic. So they are calculating that it's 223 billion euros it will cost to mitigate environmental damage of plastic pollution by 2030. They don't do anything about it.
So for businesses who are looking at these proposals, what sort of impact could they be looking at in the short term versus the long term? Is this going to pay off for them in the end?
Well, at the beginning, companies generally will complain, and they're going to use their lobbyists to complain, obviously, because they have a market, they already have a business, they have set it up, it's doing well. They are selling a lot of plastics in Europe, so why to change it? But I think, the writing is on the wall right now. As you know, we have been working on Earth Day Network to make this idea of end plastic pollution known to people and give alternatives to people of what to do. And one thing that we know is that we're seeing the beginnings of a new paradigm. There's enough trends in what people think, what people are reading, the content that is being produced, that is being enormously, it has grown tremendously in the last 6 months. You have no idea how much more content there's in the internet. Just about our campaign, 5.5 million pages were created around the content of our campaign in the internet by other people.
Right.
So the writing is on the wall. The companies are going to have to adjust. And actually, the European Union is giving them a lot of incentives, economic incentives. They're giving them time to adapt. So it's not like it's going to be overnight. And it's going to take a little bit of a while before this comes to be, if it actually goes through the process.
And consumers don't get off the hook either. So we know that the European Commission is also launching this EU-wide awareness to coincide with World Environment Day on June 5th, with a focus on customer choice and responsibility and really combating some of this. How effective do you think these sorts of campaigns can be?
We conducted a campaign that was very similar. Our main message was, you have to take personal responsibility about what you consume in terms of plastics, and especially single-use plastics, because it is true that the companies are pushing these products to you, right? And it's true also the cities should take more responsibility in what they let to be sold in their cities and how these things are processed and collected and everything else. But at the end of the day, the consumer buys all these products. I think that this particular proposal from the European Union is geared at giving you alternatives, not just taking away the products from your shelf. You're going to have other products that are better. And they are putting a lot of money also into R&D, more research and development of new types of materials for plastics. So hopefully they will be more friendly, more recyclable, or just the way that the whole process from the beginning to the end is thought through the plastic will be reused or recycled because it's a huge waste of material, you know, and also carbon energy. So they are thinking that they're going to save 3.7 million metric tons of carbon by doing these changes. So this also has this other component that will contribute to their Paris Agreement commitments.
So then with this change of mindset, with Europe really taking this very proactive role in trying to combat plastics, what does that mean in terms of its competitiveness? Because you're going to have other perhaps countries or companies seeing this. They're going to have their companies that are based in the EU that are going to be affected. Does this put more pressure on other people to step up?
Well, yes, but that I think was precisely behind this idea. As you know, this has to go through the process in the European Union. Also, it may take 2 years to complete that process, and we don't know how much of what is being proposed is going to go through or not. But let's say the majority of this goes through. The idea was that already many countries in Europe, like Germany, France, Belgium, and others, Italy, had been creating their own plastic bans of different items. And this was creating an unlevel playing field. So what they wanted to do is give all the companies working in Europe or doing business in Europe the same rules to follow. So they did this because they felt it was going to create a lot of changes, you know, about how people behave, but also the business in different places. Well, anybody that does business with the European Union is going to have to change too. So this is going to have a great ripple effect.